Right, so welcome to the Purple Heart podcast. Today I'm doing a sort of Q&A thing. I posted on Instagram and people asked me some questions. So today I'm just going to be answering them. Let's see. Okay, starting off, the first question, and I got this quite a lot, is how are you doing? I'm actually doing okay. I don't know if that's because I'm so numb to everything at the moment, as everything that's still going on is still quite fresh and raw, but I've been keeping busy, especially this podcast thing. This has kept me pretty busy. And I'm very blessed with all the people that I have around me, my friends, my family. They've been very supportive for everything. So I don't know where I'd be without them, to be honest. So it's so far so good. The funeral's coming up soon next week, so that will probably make things a bit more real because it's still so hard to kind of wrap your head around. So we'll just have to see. But as of now, genuinely, I am okay. So thank you for asking. A question here is how to talk about mental health with someone who is introverted. Right. I think it's tricky because when somebody is introverted, they're quite a closed book and they don't like to reveal much. So I'd say the best advice is to probably, if you have like a one-on-one time with them, you start opening up yourself, start talking about problems with mental health that you've had or people that you know. So it kind of like opens up the dialogue and they can just chip in when they want to. And you kind of have to read how they're feeling, because if you start saying something that might be related to what they've gone through or what they're going through, and something like lights up in their eyes or they become a bit more attentive, if you notice that, then you can kind of steer the conversation down that way and tailor it to how they react. And then because they're introverted, you just have to kind of wait until they come around, I guess. You can't always, the more you force it on them, I reckon they're going to be less open. So just keep consistent, keep checking in with them, and kind of have to do a bit of the work yourself and kind of get them into it. So yeah, there's that. What is your perspective on social media and mental health? See, this is obviously quite a big topic. A lot of people say a lot of mental health problems stem from social media. And I think one thing we have to make sure is, by like clarifying, is social media itself isn't bad. Social media is a tool that can be used for many different things. If I have a hammer, this is a tool. I can use it to build a church or build an art gallery, but I can also use it to hurt someone or harm someone. But the hammer itself is neutral the whole way through, so we just have to keep sure that social media is a neutral tool, and people will use it in bad ways and people will use it in negative ways. I think the main problem with social media kind of stems from this whole Instagram reality versus true reality. And then people we get wrapped up in the whole what life's meant to be or what life seems to be. And then when we relate it and compare it to our own lives, it's like, wow, my life's completely different. It's not what it should be. So you always think you're lacking, which then can make you feel low self-esteem, make you feel bad about yourself. So I think that's the problem, is when things aren't portrayed real and people compare themselves to the fake images and the fake videos and the fake lives that people lead, it's going to be hard to like think well of yourself, because you see yourself so much lower compared to all these other people having like the time of their lives, which isn't always the case, and we all know that to be true. But it's still hard to it's still hard to kind of wrap your head around it that it isn't real, because it seems so real. So yeah. Let's see. What is the biggest hurdle in your life, and what did you do to overcome it? One really bad thing that happened to me is one time after we were finishing our A-levels at school, we were on a night out, we were drinking, we were pretty drunk, and these guys come across the street over to us, and one of them punched me really hard on the side of the head, and then the second one did as well, and then his friend had a knife and he stabbed it through my coat, and it just hit my stomach, but just a tiny little cut. Thankfully, I was okay, but it really shook me up, and for the next couple of months I was extremely anxious, always kind of looking over my shoulder thinking that there's someone around, and my confidence had dropped a lot. And to overcome it, I guess it just takes time. They say time heals, and it's so true, because like slowly but surely I have to kind of convince myself not everyone's out to get you. Most people are quite nice. This is just like a one-off thing. But no, it did shake me up, but that's in the past now, and I feel much better now, and I don't worry about it. I'm not anxious about it now, but it's just, you can't force wounds to heal, because they have to take their time, and some things take longer than others, and that's just part of it. Someone's asked here for some background information about me. Well, my name's Nathan. I'm 20 years old. I'm half English, half Dominican. I've never been there. I went to Bennett Memorial School. That's where my friend Elisa went to. We went to school together. I did maths, physics and psychology. But I didn't go to university. One, because of the grades. The grades I got weren't the best, but then again, I didn't really feel like uni was for me, so I took a gap year, went to Australia. I literally had the best time of my life out there. And now I'm just here, just working regularly and doing this podcast thing, so that's keeping me busy at the moment. It's been fun. Has this situation changed your view of mental health? Here they're talking about me losing my friend. I think it's been definitely a big eye-opener, because it just goes to show that people who seem to have everything together, people that seem happy, you don't know what's below the surface of what they show, the mask that they put on. So it's really opened my eyes to that. And it's also given me the opportunity to speak to other people about their mental health, because after everything that happened, people would open up to me or message me and say that they've been struggling, or they know friends that have been struggling. And it's just kind of shown to me that there's so many people out there, so many people struggling, and it's like, why are all these people in so much pain? And what is being done about it? And not much seems to be done about it. So that's kind of the reason I started this podcast, because I want to be able to just help even one person to just feel a little bit better, or stop having suicidal thoughts, or realise that they're not depressed, or that the world isn't as bad as it seems. And I think if every one person helped one other person, then we'd all be better, do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's just made me more aware of that a lot of people are struggling, and you really cannot judge a book by its cover, because there's just so much under the surface that you just won't see, sort of the tip of the iceberg kind of sort of situation. Some said, what's the colour purple, and what's with the purple heart? So that's a good point, actually. The day that I found out what happened to my friend, it was quite sad. Obviously, I've never cried or never been that sad in my life. And a good artist that he liked, a rapper named Dave, who we also liked as well. He had a song called Purple Heart, and I just started playing that, and I started thinking of my friend. And there's a line in the song that says, "I'm numb to pain," and that's how I really felt that time. I felt quite numb. I felt quite deluded and just so confused by everything. Couldn't wrap my head around everything, so I just felt so numb. And because he liked the artist as well, I put that on my story, the song and the purple heart, and I said, this is how I'm going to remember you. And then the purple heart just went everywhere. It was really nice to see all the hearts everywhere. It just shows that everyone's together, and it's just a little symbol that everyone can just instantly recognise. So, and that's why it's called the Purple Heart Podcast. So, and it's weird because purple has been my favourite colour since I was a child. So, next question is how to advise someone who is suicidal. It's tricky because I think main causes for suicide is the lack of something. So it's the lack of money, it's the lack of self-worth, it's the lack of friends or families. So it's always that there's something missing. So I think if you know someone that's suicidal or feels like life's not worth living for, you just have to constantly remind them there's people around them that love them. The job that you're in right now, you're not going to be there forever, and there's opportunities that will come today, the next day, or a couple of years from now. Nothing's permanent. Everything always changing. So you have to remind them that there are things worth to live for. And even though that life can sometimes just kick you down, it doesn't mean it's the end. It doesn't mean you can't get better. So, yeah. But if someone is really bad, don't feel like you have to hold that on to yourself. You can refer them or call up a helpline and give them some professional help, because sometimes just one chat isn't enough and they need serious help to make sure they're okay and they're getting better. Another question here. As a man yourself, what would you help prevent? As a man yourself, what would you help prevent male suicide? What would help prevent male suicide? I think it's tricky because obviously suicide, especially in young men, is such a common thing now, and it's kind of sad and scary that it is this common. But we have to realise that we have to break down the barrier and the stigma around men not being able to speak for themselves or speak about their feelings, because if he cries or if he's got feelings, he's a pussy. So, and that's such a dated thing. It's always been about. Do you know what I mean? So, trying to stop that is always tricky, but I think that's definitely a good thing. And people need to speak up. People need to speak up, because if they don't, it's stuck in their head and it becomes too much. There's a story about this dragon that's in their house, and it's a long story, but the moral of the story is the more they ignored the dragon, the bigger and bigger it got, and eventually it was so big it covered the whole house and they couldn't move around their own home. So you have to think, if you attack your problems, your dragons, when they're small, it's a lot easier to do it then than when they're much bigger, because if you won't attack your dragons when they're small, there's no chance you can attack them when they're bigger. So I think that's what we have to kind of instill into people, that when there's a small problem, don't let it grow, attack it as quickly as possible so it remains small and you can move on. I think that's what's going to help the most. Someone says, what are ways you keep motivated? Generally, I'm not a really motivated person, but I think motivation comes secondary. I think the first thing is finding something that you truly care about and that you want to do well to help yourself and to help others. So for this podcast, the only reason I'm doing it is so I can try and help others. So that is kind of motivating me to then put my work and put my effort and my energy into this. So I think the motivation comes second. So if you think what you're doing is important enough, then the motivation will always be there. But then also, if you're in a dead-end job which you're not really enjoying, you have to think, well, how am I going to get through this? And you have to think, you're getting money for doing this, you're getting experience, you're not going to be in this job forever. So you kind of have to always look at the silver lines and the positives to sort of keep you going. Any ways to help guys being heard and speak up about mental health? And that's the thing. If we're kind of waiting just for guys to speak up, and sometimes they will need a little nudge and just a little question, are you okay? Or you just chat about something which hasn't got to do with mental health. It's just starting that conversation, starting that dialogue, and the more comfortable they get with you, the more they'll be able to open up. So just always checking in with your friends is so important. Have you been affected by mental health? Well, so after the first thing that happened when I was beaten up and stabbed, that really messed with my anxiety. I would get really bad sleep, always be worrying, and it was tiring because I'm always anxious about what's going to happen next, which would then make me tired. So then I have really bad sleeps, and then it would kind of be like a cycle going on and on. Then also when I came back from Australia, because I was having such a great time in Australia and I was riding this high of this amazing new life, and then I came back here and all my friends left and went to uni. I was really alone, really depressed, and just every day just kind of blurred together, and I just felt down, and people had said, Nathan, you've changed so much. And I didn't really realise I didn't recognise myself anymore. Before, when I was in Australia, I was so certain I knew exactly who I was, and to go from that to then to have no idea who I was just such a big change. It just really messed me up for a while, and I was just kind of down in the dumps. But after some introspection and a long hard look at myself, I started to kind of piece myself together, and I'm much better now. But unluckily, it didn't last too long. But I can imagine people who have been depressed for years, it's just so hard to get out of, because that just becomes your normal state. And mental health affects everyone, and it affects everyone differently as well. Let's see. How do I get therapy without going private? So therapy, which everyone knows, costs quite a lot. Everyone knows that it's quite expensive. If you're at university, there's always people there. If you're at a job, there's places you can go to, and there's a lot of online therapists that can help you. And say if you really don't have any money and you're just like a group of friends, say you're in a group of friends, there's 6 of you. If you divide that into 3 groups of 2, and they're like your buddy, your pal, that they're like your little pair. So you have like 3 pairs, and you 2 have to check in with the other person. So you're kind of responsible for each other, and you have to be there for each other. It's hard to be there for a whole group. So if you bring it down to the interpersonal level, then it's much easier, much more manageable, and then you can like help each other sort through these problems. Yeah. So that's some of the questions. I'm still getting used to how all this works, audio and video, so please do bear with me. My first podcast, as I've said, will be with Ben West. He'll be sitting next to me here. That'll come out probably, I want to say 7th, 8th of June. That's when it will be. But until then, everybody stay safe. Check on your friends, and never be afraid to speak up, because, like I said, if we attack our dragons when they're small, they won't be able to grow. So, yeah, thank you very much.